Hey guys, this is the Ekron Writer here. Welcome you back to another missing episode of the missing episodes of Sleepy Hollow. Last time, Holly has actually returned to Sleepy Hollow. Well, actually, in this case, Washington. And he was actually infected by the Vetala because they actually work in pairs. So he actually teamed up with his godmother, Carmelia Pines, whom he was looking for back in season 2. And it was the episode that I hated, Kali Yuga. So, yeah, there's that. And they were both annihilated by Team Witness, and Jenny actually confessed her true feelings that it was just a dumb idea. They were both artifact hunters and they thought they had so much in common until Nikali's betrayal. So she has herself to blame while she got traded for the Vetala bite. So, now that all the plot holes are being resolved, so what's next? Well, let's find out, shall we? Alright, hold on just one sec. Alright, episode 6, Blood Moon Riseth. And hold on, let me just move this down. Wasn't quite ready for this. Alright. As the title may suggest, this is pretty much foreboding, a foreshadowing of things to come. Chapter 6, Blood Moon Riseth. As Washington entered into dusk, a full moon that looked like an enormous tangerine rose over. It was a full one, and as it ascended, it grew as dark as a tomato, then in a deep crimson as it appeared to be bleeding in a night sky. Jake and Alex inside the vault were a few of the first who saw its climb and sinister look. The engineer just shrugged it off as a lunar eclipse and a simple blood moon that would only last a few hours and just stay full for about a week. The archivist, on the other hand, was more paranoid and nervous, as he thought this was one of the most omnipresent signs from the book of Revelation, whereas more of the tribulations are about to begin, a calm before the storm. He desperately wanted to make preparations while they still can before the dark stuff would really hit the fan. The next day at Molly's house, Diana was skimming over the channels. Almost every one featured a news break of foreign conflicts that have worsened. HLN, the Fox News Network, CNN, and others were hammered with them. She became more and more wary of the world around her, and for a moment she had a brief thought of her distant ex-husband, Mitch Talbot, which she would find out in, Locos de Parentis, something like that. But he was also missing in action in Laura's timeline, so there's that. Since he was a Marine, much like her, she made a promise to herself several years back to never open her feelings to no one, that she'd stay strong to her missions and training, and to never let her innards manifest. Until she met Mitch, eventually fell in love with him, and was conceiving Molly. As a result, she left the forces and settled down without him. Instead of going with her, he refused and decided to stay and defend the country without any reprieve. Molly hardly knew her old man outside of the bar guest that Dreyfus created. And from their distant relationship, a divorce transpired and he hardly made any contact with the girls. Unless he would justify the common excuse, if he remembers to. The last time Diana heard of him was a few weeks back. He said he was shipped off to war fighting ISIS. Her reverie was interrupted by a shrill chirp, only it belonged to her own cell phone. She picked it up and received a call from a vehement tone. It was one of her associates in Homeland Security. "Miss Thomas, I have some terrible news. Is your daughter here?" "No, she's already at school." "Then this is going to be harder than I anticipated. Captain Mitch Talbot has been reported dead, shot by an ISIS terrorist. The full autopsy would be revealed once we ship him back to Washington. I'm deeply sorry for your loss." Diana didn't really have anything to say. Her throat tightened as she lowered her head. She wasn't sure how she can break the news to Molly. Still, she took a hard swallow and maintained a strong composure. Understood. I'll alert Molly whenever possible. The lunar eclipse, an occurrence of a full moon in which it shakes behind the earth, and while the sun faces towards it. The three celestial bodies are in syzygy, meaning the female scientist teacher coughed into her sleeve before resuming the lecture. Molly was sketching one inside a notebook while absorbing some of the knowledge and ignoring the precarious looks from her students. It was unsettling as the class was constantly being interrupted by spells of coughing and at times brief wheezing. Of course, a full moon cannot affect people's emotions and make them irritable and cranky, just to change the tides, and the phenomenon itself can only last a few hours. Yet still, be viewed anywhere in the night sky. This isn't to say it would cause any fantastical occurrences like werewolves or changing the world's outlook. Just then there was an announcement saying there would be an early dismissal due to most of the faculty getting sick. At least that was what the principal claimed, who was also coughing up a storm. It was only 1:35. The teacher let her students be and reminded them to do their research concerning the eclipse. Molly, however, was a bit more preoccupied while she was packing, as if there was more to it than just a temporary sighting. She heard it happen last night and later had appeared in one of her random visions. For her, it was a foreshadowing. The bus dropped her off at the corner of the street. She walked toward her house and told Diana as she was walking in about the early dismissal. Her mom looked somber and laid some firm hands on her shoulders as she lowered herself. Molly, something terrible happened to your dad. Mitch was fighting against ISIS and one of them shot him. He was presumed dead since last night. Kid's face dropped, her eyes widened in disbelief. What do you mean? He's gone? My father's gone? Diana held her close and hugged her tightly. The cat really got her tongue, though she made some reassuring words. I never wanted this to happen. I was hoping he'd return so we may be a family again, albeit distant. But we can't. I'm sorry. Molly cried within her arms. Even though she just took in the fact she'd never see her father again, she felt there was a connection of sorts. Meanwhile, at Gavin's apartment, his PlayStation View was also being crippled, as it broadcast reruns and massive marathons of shows and movies he hated. Casino, mafia-related shows including Mob Wives, many reality shows, every Teen Titans Go, The Walking Dead, and even some news breaks of various international conflicts were displayed without end. Ugh! He shut it off with a grunt and switched on his Windows 7 laptop. As he accessed the web, he noticed that his server was on the slow side. The signal strength was high, but no matter where he went, there was nothing but buffering as he tried to surf. Gavin noticed he could hardly navigate the internet anymore. Some sites were being throttled, such as useless realty and political sites, while others, like his personal preferences, were running at a snail's pace. There was the startling answer once he finally got to a news site to see what was going on, which only took a second to appear with the message, Net neutrality has failed. Agent was smiling brightly to him in the large photograph of the Oval Office. He slammed his fists. What? What the hell? I can't surf the sites and transfer data anymore? I can't watch anything? His face was turning as red as a beet while his knuckles turned white and his teeth were clenched tightly. Just then there was an unexpected tap on his door. He opened it and his landlady approached him. She informed him that his rent was jacked up to $20 more than the original price. At first it was around $250 a month, and his paycheck from the Historical Society were a bit tumultuous but doable. They weren't as stressful as his previous occupation, but he wondered how he could continue to support himself. In addition, Gavin recently got canned from his part-time position as an archivist since he had no seniority. Damn you cutbacks in this asinine economy! What the hell is the world coming to? From a jingle on his computer, he received an urgent message saying there was a meeting at the vault. He typed back that he doesn't have a ride. He has to communicate through telecom. As a response, a friend's phone displayed the vault. The LTD screen was able to show it from a desk. "You're ready to go, Gavin." The sergeant spoke to the screen, which in turn talked to the redhead. "Thanks, Alex. I hope I'm able to access you and my friends in the future. Net neutrality is dead now. Hey, where's Diana?" He noticed everyone was here excepting the head of Homeland Security. With a frown, she gave him the news that Mitch had passed during armed combat. He never had any personal encounters with Molly's dad, and in the far back, Laura seemed to be feeling the slight pang of upset as much as he was. "Never really knew my old man, except when he started as a bar guest." Ugh. Oh, hold on a sec. Ugh. Damn it. Ugh. Hold on a sec. Fucker. Alright. "I never really knew my old man, except when he started as our bar guest. He hardly ever comes, and he really tries to be supportive and caring. He's not a heartless man, but it's kind of forgettable if I were to compare him to Dreyfus." The rest of them felt sorry for Molly and Diana having to endure the pain. "I guess this has to do with the blood moon." Everyone looked at him funny, though Ichabod was serious. "You may have a point, Mr. Wells. There was one that Alex and I saw last night. We monitored it, and it seems to never change, even while it was setting. This is not good." "Never changed its appearance. It was still full and maintained the same redness as it did while it was ascending. Which could mean one of the prophecies in the book of Revelation." "Indeed it is." Everyone gasped. They couldn't have presumed this. The next tribulations could be too much to bear. "How many has it been now? 2? 3? "There were 3, Alex. The first one was Moloch, the Demon King residing from Purgatory. My sister and I first saw him when we were teenagers, wandering the woods. When I worked with August Corbin, he said this was the first tribulation. After I escaped from Tarrytown, I learned about the war. Yeah, I first saw him before Ichabod and I see Abby, when she decided to trade her soul for Katrina's. And man, he really did a doozy on her when he was trying to escape. Fortunately, he was slewed by Henry, but I was knocked out cold after that duel I had with him. The Bible said there are 7 tribulations, and Moloch was undoubtedly the first, causing chaos in Sleepy Hollow. And then, about a year later, there was Pandora and the Hidden One. It was hard for Gavin and Jenny to explain, so the Freemason led the conversation. It was said that Moloch and the Hidden One were all about getting powerful for their glory. It was said that Moloch and the Hidden One were all about getting powerful for their glory. Malcolm Dreyfus was searching for glory and power also. It's safe to assume that Dreyfus was the 3rd tribulation. The other 4 tribulations could be after the same thing as well. Can Gospodor count as another tribulation? Ichabod thought of this for several minutes. Apparently he and Gavin and Jenny were the only ones who knew about him and his darkness spreading over the city. However, she hardly remembered the demon and his destruction, and Gavin never encountered him personally since he was busy protecting Chief Turgado, who was conjuring a reversal. Thus the Freemason was the only one who knew him all too well, and he later came up with a statement. "I think not. The Gospodor only did a small scale of glory and chaos. It was an isolated incident, as it was only city-wide. The tribulations are full-scale threats. We may be at the mercy of the Great Tribulation now, as we've already been through 3 out of 7 trials. We must be ready." Then sadly informed everyone that only Washington's Bible and Revelation weren't completed since there was still more evil to deal with. especially during the Revolution. In the end, there was Moloch, Pandora and the Hidden One, and lastly Dreyfus and Job. And finally, the Great Tribulation, known as the Second Half, along with Lucifer himself. Jake figured that maybe the horsemen themselves can make their own, like they did in the original Bible itself. According to him, Eastern Orthodoxy treated the text as describing simultaneous contemporaneous events and the prophecy of the events to follow them afterwards. The contemporaneous events were a form of foreshadowing, much like the blood moon. They rejected attempts to determine if the events of Revelation were to occur by mapping them onto present-day events, taking to heart the scriptural warning against those who proclaim he is here prematurely in the case of harrowing Jesus. Instead, the book is seen as a warning to be spiritually and morally ready for the ending times, whenever they may come, so it wouldn't be like the said passage, as a thief in the night, as if catching believers off guard. Ichabod added that they will come, however, at the time of God's, or in this case Lucifer's choosing, not something that can easily be predicted nor deduced by mere mortals. But we can! It was a puzzle for Team Witness to solve. The female witness said that Diana took the news breaks into account. There were still some ongoing wars, such as the Somalia War in Africa from '91, along with many others within the torn country. The Mexican drug war was also accounted for. So was the conflict in Afghanistan, which had been ongoing since the late 1970s, before Osama took over. Then there was the 2003 Iraqi conflict and ISIS, amongst others. Instead of attacking Team Witness directly, the world would affect us indirectly. When he awakened, Crane's pentagram brightened, sensing something was wrong. He had a strong inclination the Onondagas would be affected in some way. I shall visit Basin Falls and meet with the new Chief Folklore. Jenny decided to go with her artifact hunters in hopes to find the cross. Laura volunteered to go with her in case the changes would hinder them, or if worse comes to worse, the horsemen may be around. Alex and Jake chose to stay and modify their weapons, including the daggers, the silver crossbow, and the rifle. Hey, what about me? Ichabod walked up toward the LCD screen, wearing a glum expression. Gavin, forgive me, but because of the dire predicaments, you might want to relocate to Washington. I knew it. But first, I need to visit Basin Falls to check on the Onondagas. Laura will go with Miss Jenny and meet up with her artifact hunters. Would you care to go with me? Do I need to bring over my Battlehawk wardrobe? He stuttered at the thought. Although he was labeled as the Battlehawk of Light, he still can't forget the time Henry brainwashed him. Sensing his uneasiness, no, you don't have to. I'm certain the tribe wouldn't be interested in hypnotizing you again. We have bigger shoes to fill. Gavin accepted, and Ichabod said he'll meet him at his apartment and to make sure he brings some clothing, some non-perishable food, his weapons, and whatever else to prepare for what's ahead. Because there were agonizing thoughts that Gavin no longer had a job, and since the rapture was close at hand, he started pacing around, not sure whether he would be staying at Jenny's camp or Ichabod's flat. It's quite uncertain since Laura also needed residence. He wondered where she was staying all this time since she returned to D.C. Perhaps the vault, he thought. Then he got to work. Meanwhile, the TV journalists were getting more anxious as they reported intense natural disasters occurring across the globe. From snow in Egypt to Gulf Fall-sized hailstorms to tornadoes in Los Angeles, Diana figured it could be part of Death's plot to wreak havoc and stole the witnesses. She tried to disregard her grievances for the moment. Luckily, Molly was upstairs, not seeing her mom rushing around. She asked her when she got to the foyer, "Molly, are you okay up there?" "Yeah, Mom. I'll be all right." She was so busy sketching the image of the lunar eclipse. "I'm going to be leaving to gather some extra supplies. Jake and Alex said they'll be on their way here. Something about modifying our weaponry. You have my number if anything should come up." Yeah, I do. Bye. Diana agreed with Molly that preparations must be made for the oncoming rapture. For one, she believed in her agonies when she mentioned the tribulations were about to take effect. Both of them had been at it for hours, and she decided to take any precautions. Most of the politicians created tension, but since there were some firm believers in the White House, it was imperative for her to make haste. In her bedroom, Molly skipped a few pages and literally scribbled on her notebook of all the possible connections: death, famine, pestilence, war. She even called her friends to gather some super soakers. Shortly after Jake and Alex rang the doorbell, Molly rushed downstairs to answer it. Molly, are you ready? We just saw your mom leave. Yeah, she's just getting some supplies for us. Some food, water, the usual necessities. Are you sure the vault is safe? We're positive, sweetie. Now about your super soaker? She looked at her partner irritably. Yes, it's in my room, she stormed. Why did you want her to get a child's toy? I didn't even know she had one. She just got a great idea. It won't be easy to get the contents. She wants to make them into holy water soakers. So you're going to use a super soaker as a weapon? Great idea, Jake! It'll be a piece of cake, Alex. Several hours later, Gavin and Ichabod were arriving at Basin Falls. The van's back seats were packed to the brim with bulky objects, bags, and a few tight suitcases. During the ride, Ichabod explained to Gavin that he must relocate to Washington and perhaps live in the vault since the tunnels were so spacious. He promised him that he'll return to Sleepy Hollow for last-minute belongings and say goodbye to Sophie, his dad, and Ezra. He also hoped that the Onondagas were smart enough to migrate, and even they would reside within the secret passages of the temporary sanctuary, perhaps guard over it as well. If the Christians have found a haven known as the Church to protect themselves from the rapture, then we shall do the same too. Eventually the surgeon agreed with his plan, although he was doubtful what church Ichabod was referring to. By another hour he parked his car and they set foot into the valley. Gavin remembered the attractions from the reservation which he saw in front of him as they were walking along. You must stay focused, Gavin. We need to find the village like you did a few years ago. We must consult with the new chief. He can help us. The trek was unusually silent from what they were used to. No crowds, no drums, no small creatures chirping. Ichabod led Gavin the way and they eventually went to a clearing. They seemed to have the same thought. Looks like nothing's changed. They marched up to the gigantic teepee at the center, and Gavin could have sworn he heard something that made him turn his head. They noticed most of the tents were barren, and he came before the new chief tent. They stopped abruptly before he greeted his visitors. Greetings, Soren Crane! And I see you brought your friend over. Welcome back, Battlehawk. Without hesitation, Gavin knelt down low and Ichabod did his signature bow. They rose up and Ichabod introduced him as Falcolor. He looked to be in his mid to late 30s, and his squinting eyes appeared serious, but keen as any bird of prey's, and the irises appeared as blue as deep clear sky. Ichabod mentioned Falcolor was chosen among a few others by himself after Trigado passed on. He may not have a sense of prudence, but he's very devoted to his legacy and people. He was said to possess similar attributes to the falcon, such as speed and agility, keen eyesight, and is very adaptable. From the looks of things, he does admire blue. From his markings to his broad headband and feathers, his hair was much like its crest. He donned cerulean war paint from the edges of his face while also having red paint covering the surrounding his eyes. Much like Trigado, he wore a wide headdress and a plethora of feathers that had different shades of blue. Finally, he wore a cobalt headband with an emblem of a large bird on it. He stood up from his perch and replied, It's great to see you again, Soren Crane, but I believe you may be too late. Some of our pets and tribesmen have disappeared. Most of the children and the women became sick and infertile. Some of my warriors even died as they fought off an increase of ravenous beasts. We have never seen such a terrible travesty befall us. It was though the world has gone mad. I believe this has something to do with the blood moon last night. I'm deeply sorry for your loss, Chief Falcalor. If only we'd get here sooner. No need to blame yourselves. I am certain my men have escaped to the great city. However, it will not be easy to stay discreet. Let's just hope they'll be too distracted by the drastic changes, including the fatal wars throughout the world. Gavin looked up and saw a wooden statue of a gigantic hawk. Hey, I didn't know you were into falconry. They have been since I've chosen Falcalor. He explained he took in a family of falcons and hawks while they were dying from diseases, as well as a few orphan wolf and fox cubs. They seemed to give the tribe, especially the kids, some good company after Trigato passed. Quickly! We mustn't linger here. I was waiting for your arrival, but my people have already left. One of the shamans said 2 horses are coming, one red and one pale. War and death. We must go. Before they did, they noticed Gavin was paralyzed, then hunching over and holding his head in anguish. Not again! The Freemason asked what was wrong. It's these accursed drums again! I need to block them out! It's Henry Parrish. He's here. Gavin, listen to me. You must resist him. We are at stake here. We need you with us. He encouraged him to fight the urge as if he felt not too long ago. Folklore, keep him still. I need to face whoever is out there, he replied in his native tongue to hurry. We meet again, father. When Ichabod emerged, he saw his son before him. He looked as sinister as ever, with his wry grin, spectacles, and his aging, wrinkling face. He donned on a heavy dark gray overcoat. Then he heard Gavin scream louder as if his brain was bad enough to bleed. Ah! At the Jefferson Airport, Laura and Jenny encountered the group of hunters. One of them was an Asian named Donnie Wu, saying that a secret souvenir was taken from them. They were sure it wasn't customs. One of us saw it got carried away by a hawk. Or was it a falcon? Or an eagle? Jenny introduced her associate Laura, and Donnie showed the book he was using earlier. In one of the pages, there was a picture of a thick green ox horn. Remember this? Yeah, I recall. Yeah, I recall seeing this since I asked you for the inventory while I was searching for the ancient Chinese puzzle, the one we used to fight off the hunger demon. Huh. Anyway, I hate to break it to you, but because of all the radical weather... Ah, damn it. Yeah, I recall seeing this since I asked you for the inventory while I was searching for the ancient Chinese puzzle, the one we used to fight off the hunger demon. Uh-huh. Anyway, I hate to break it to you, but because of all the radical weather, we were lucky to make it as soon as we did. Otherwise, we'd be grounded. I've been wondering what the horn is for. Not sure either. Would you promise to keep in touch with me? Of course, Jenny. Hey, what's with her? I think I know what that means, but we need to find the cross. Where did that hawk go? Henry, you're here to lull Gavin back to your side. Too bad you were damned, father. This would be an easier way to finally destroy you for all your treachery. Thanks to Lucifer, my power has grown tenfold. Now I can influence and corrupt the world over. It does suffice being a puppeteer. So much for your pathetic truce. So that's how it is. You caused these ominous signs, even the blood moon. As you have realized, I can manipulate just about anyone or anything without limits. Observe. Looked over to the suffering surgeon and made a husky whisper. Battle Hawk of Darkness, come to me, my pawn. As done by the Sin Eater, the trance was beginning to subdue Gavin. Falcalor looked up to him. Battlehawk, are you all right? Swift backhand, the chief was incapacitated. Gavin's eyes started to gleam as he looked toward his former chieftain. Chief Parrish. Ichabod grew horrified. Then his pentagram glowed and itched again. Gavin's virtue of fortitude has been simultaneously dimming. You know what you must. Be rid of the so-called father I used to know. The parents that abandoned me when I was just a boy. Without him, the other witness, and the guardians, well, we shall triumph. Snarling in his mouth, drooling like a wild dog confronting a predator, Gavin lunged to his mentor. Without any weapons on either party, Ichabod tried his best to hold him back. His best bet was to use his left arm, though one that had the satanic marking. Gavin still kept thrashing at him, then hesitated as he noticed he wasn't inflicting any pain at that area. Ichabod smacked him with it, causing the Battlehawk of Darkness to fall back, but it didn't end there. Tackled him and pinned him to the ground again. This time he was on his back, and he relentlessly kept on attacking him using all his malice. Henry just stood there, admiring the conflict. Then, all of a sudden, a tree branch shook from above within a thick canopy. No one seemed to notice, but a falcon descended sharply on top of the evil old coot. In its war avatar, the predatory bird used its sharp beak and talons, making ear-piercing screeches at him. It wasn't hurting Henry, just being a nuisance while he tried to hold it off. Then, something wrapped in a cloth dropped to the ground from its loose talons. With his unbound strength and anger, Henry caught the poor creature in its tight clutch and squeezed the falcon, as it was just silly putty. Its uproar ceased and countless bones snapped. He dropped the dead bird in a pile of feathers. Now! Noticing the object, Gavin made his attempts to reach toward it, thinking it'll give him some leverage against Ichabod's strong hold. While his hand made contact with the hard tool covered by the thick velvet, it began to illuminate in a turquoise light. The long point of the handle glowed along with a perpendicular one. It was outlined as a cross, and upon contact, it shot a jolt through Gavin's body. Battered, Ichabod noticed it too. The sensation filled the young warrior with bliss, breaking the thrall. He tightly held it as his fingers enwrapped it, slowly rose, uncovered the velvet, and the cross shined along with his emblem. No, you can't. Parrish startled as Gavin was heading toward him, wielding the cross like a weapon. The light grew brighter, nearly blinding war. Gavin took a swipe at him, but retreated within a dissolve of embers. Everything was silent again, and Ichabod couldn't be more relieved. Gavin turned back and crouched next to him. Ichabod, please forgive me. I didn't mean to. I know. Even his own virtue was lighting up. He offered to take a look at the cross, but somehow his left arm, where the affected area was, starting to irritate him. The pentagram glowed immensely bright, almost as if it was corroding his arm. Hurt, he backed away. You can't touch it. No. I figured it'd be a cure for my damnation. But clap of thunder and a flash of orange lightning stunned the pairing. There was no rain, and Abraham was mounting on his pale horse, with its red eyes in the distance, with his head on. Before Ichabod knew it, Death threw a cauterized axe toward the duo. But Gavin immediately covered Crane, forming a force field. The tool just bounced off, as if it was a shield of enhanced glass. When he unshielded their eyes, Death was gone. Gavin, how were you able to do that? I didn't know I could. Continued to look at the symbol. The storm worsened as the wind picked up and the thunder boomed louder. Come on! Must head straight for the vault. Post haste! Disregarding the carcass, they carried the stunned chief toward the witness's van, and he was squeezed between them at the passenger's seat. He concluded that Death was capable of controlling natural disasters. With his head regenerated by Lucifer, he was at full strength, just like war. It was just another sign the apocalypse would be nigh. About an hour later, the team regrouped. Both Jake and Alex were just as flabbergasted as the three men were about the holy relic they found, Gavin's new ability, and the intense weather. Folklore said he was glad he made some more acquaintances, though he was also disappointed his valiant falcon fought and lost against Parrish. He also hoped his men could make it safely, wishing he'd be with them. The vault workers said they're delighted to use the place as a shelter for Falcolor and his tribesmen to hide until the crisis is over. If it is. When the chief left, Jake and Alex pointed out that disease had plenty of outbreaks, not just war. Marked on a large paper map, there were numerous epidemics of cholera in various third world countries, along with Ebola and dengue fever. These underdeveloped countries can be easy targets for pestilence, just like the lost colony Roanoke. Famine also affected multiple provinces. The UN officially ended the widespread hunger several months ago, till there was another outbreak in Africa affecting 20 million from starvation despite the wars in Nigeria, South Sudan, Yemen, and especially Somalia. Famine can easily affect anyone, even in advanced countries. Who knows? Maybe we would be next shortly with the bad economy, inflation, and if any war should reach us. How can we make a difference now? How can the witnesses be able to combat this? He still couldn't believe he was forcefully relocated from Sleepy Hollow, as well as losing his job, and how services were heavily crippled. We need to find the horsemen and somehow destroy them, even though there was a pain when he said it'll involve his son too. How can we relocate them? He thought about the necklace, then he remembered giving it to Molly. He decided to lead Molly and her friends along with Gavin's father, Ezra, and Sophie to Sanctuary within the vault. Jenny appeared with Laura, saying the artifact she was looking for went missing. She doubted one of the horsemen took it since it was a holy relic. Something holy? Do you mean this? Yes! I'm so glad it wasn't gone for good. Thank goodness. A falcon flew in and dropped it off, though Ichabod couldn't touch it. Gavin said he should make contact. He'd get harmed, as the affected area would burn like corrosive acid, even if he grabbed it with his other hand. Nevertheless, Jenny suggested it had to be kept by him at all costs for protection. She wanted to find Frank Irving and his family, whom she hasn't seen in a few years. But his location has always been unknown since he joined the Witness Protection Program, so she'll have no choice but to accept their fate. Later on, Ichabod called Sophie to talk to Reyes for the city's preparations, as well as the return of the four horsemen. Diana volunteered to bring Molly and some of her friends to the vault as soon as they're done packing. The world was certainly at unease, and the bad moon rising was only the beginning. And there are the songs for that. I don't want to play this due to copyrights. CCR. The hail and tornadoes were inspirations from The Day After Tomorrow, while the snow was from a scene from Rise of the Silver Surfer. Who knows when those outrageous occurrences would happen, right? There's been 2 deaths in the limelight in Sacrificial Lambs, Reynolds and Mitch. I figured they were just wasteful characters, and I noticed this has been happening a lot in the story. From them to Sophie and Reyes moving positions, there was just a lot of unwanted, unimpressive characters as of late. As mentioned in Revelations and TV tropes, the blood moon is known to be a prophet of doom. It wasn't some normal lunar phenomenon, and things sure weren't downhill afterwards. We have seen it twice back in Season 1. It's a shame we never saw it again, only it seems to be everlasting now. I just wanted to jump to the build-up of the Tribulations right away. It's not right we have to wait another 3 or 4 more seasons or years before the Great Tribulation happens. So, in a way, it's something to speed up the process. I've also mentioned that Washington's Bible and Revelation were left unfinished. Also, it may be the chance for the Horsemen and Lucifer to make their own tribulations, leading up to the last one. The clarity was from a wiki contributor. Falcolor was a mashup idea I had for the new chief of the Onondagas, much like Torgado. Only this one is Falcon or Falco in color. If you're a close follower, I'm sure you know the reference already. If not, let me just say that it's relevant to a popular icon from my favorite racing series. We have seen another feature from the Seven Sacred Virtues. As Gavin's job as a guardian of a witness, he defended Ichabod. I hope this wasn't cliché or some petty superpower I came up with. There were some clues to this chapter. A blood moon, war has arrived in a red horse. There was the return of the Battlehawk of Darkness, and there were some numerous conflicts around the world. So far, war and Parrish made their move. Who will be next? We'll see, sleepyheads. Until then, this is the Ecron Writers signing out. And I hope my throat won't be so irritated. Whew, that was a lot of work. So, see you guys next time.